My husband abandoned me right after he found out I was pregnant with twins. I felt completely lost. But then, by chance, I came across an injured man on an empty road. I had no idea that meeting him would change my life forever. Hello, my name is Alina, and I'm a mechanic in Milan, Italy. Ever since I was a child, I've always loved tinkering with cars alongside my father. That's how I discovered my passion for engines and tools. Now, I work in a workshop in the city center, spending my days fixing cars and constantly learning more about mechanics. My life was going well until everything suddenly changed. A year ago, I met Victor, and we quickly fell in love. He was loving, caring, and I truly believed he was the man of my dreams. Everything seemed perfect until the day I found out I was pregnant. Not with one baby, but with twins. I was excited and nervous at the same time, eager to share the news with Victor. I woke up early that spring morning, nervous yet excited, as I had important news to tell Victor. We met at the cafe we always went to on Saturdays. I ordered tea and waited for him, feeling butterflies in my stomach. When he arrived, he smiled and kissed me on the forehead, but he soon noticed my serious expression. Victor, I have something to tell you, I began, trying to stay calm. I'm pregnant. He stayed silent for a few seconds, and I could see the surprise in his eyes. With twins, I added, trying to smile. But Victor didn't smile back. His face turned pale, and he seemed lost in thought. I need some time to think, he said suddenly, getting up from the table. We'll talk later. I sat there alone, feeling a wave of fear and confusion wash over me. That night, I tried calling him several times, but he didn't answer. I spent hours staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. What was going on? The next day, I went to his house, determined to understand what was happening. I knocked on the door several times until a woman opened it. She looked surprised and asked who I was. With my heart in my mouth, I explained that I was looking for Victor. I'm his fiancé, she said calmly, showing a sparkling ring on her finger. My world collapsed at that moment. Victor, the man I loved and trusted, had been cheating on me all along. He had a fiancé and had never told me anything. I went home in shock, not knowing what to do. I felt lost and alone. I cried all night, imagining what it would be like to raise my children without their father. But in the midst of my pain, a familiar voice brought me some comfort. Ivana, my best friend, appeared at my door with a tight hug. You are not alone, she said. We'll get through this together. Ivana helped me find strength I didn't even know I had, and so I began to take the first steps to restart my life, knowing that despite everything, I needed to be strong for my babies. After the shock of discovering Victor's betrayal, I knew I needed to move forward. I couldn't just sit around crying over what had happened. Ivana was an angel during this time. She came to my house every day, bringing food, cheering me up, and most importantly, helping me find a new job. Ivana knew Natalia, the owner of a mechanical workshop in the city. She talked to Natalia and managed to schedule an interview for me. I was nervous, but I knew I needed this opportunity. On the morning of the interview, I dressed as best as I could and went to the workshop, trying to hide the fear I felt. When I arrived, Natalia greeted me with a smile. She was a strong and determined woman, and I knew I had to do my best to impress her. We talked for a while, and I told her about my experience as a mechanic. Natalia seemed to like what she heard, but I knew I had to prove my worth in practice. You start tomorrow, she said, surprising me. I thanked her and Ivana, who was beside me, grinning from ear to ear. It was a relief to know I had gotten the job, but I also knew the real challenge was just beginning. On my first day of work, I arrived early and introduced myself to my new colleagues. They welcomed me well, but I could feel they were curious to see if I really knew what I was doing. I rolled up my sleeves and dove into the work, fixing cars and learning about the dynamics of the workshop. Each day was a new opportunity to show my skills and learn more. Natalia was demanding but fair, and little by little, I earned her trust. She taught me a lot and always challenged me to improve. It was tough at first, especially with the pregnancy, but I knew I needed to be strong. With each car I fixed, I felt a little more pride and confidence. I was building a new life, one step at a time, and gradually I realized that despite all the difficulties, I was capable of overcoming any challenge. The workshop became more than just a workplace. It was a place where I could rebuild myself, find strength, and believe in the future. And so, day by day, I was becoming not just a better mechanic, but also a stronger and more determined person. One evening, as I was heading home after a long day at the workshop, I saw something that made me stop. By the side of the road lay a man, clearly injured. My heart raced, and without thinking twice, I parked the car and ran to him. "Are you okay?" I asked, trying not to panic. He opened his eyes slowly and mumbled something I couldn't understand. He was hurt and needed urgent help. I knew I couldn't leave him there, so with some effort, I got him into my car and drove straight to the nearest hospital. When I arrived, the nurses rushed to help and took him inside. I waited anxiously in the waiting room, wondering who he was and what had happened. After some time, a nurse came to inform me that he was stable but needed to stay under observation. I sighed with relief, but knew I still had another battle to face. Because of the rescue, I arrived late at work, and Natalia, my boss, was not happy. She called me for a conversation as soon as I got back to the workshop. "Alina, we can't afford delays," she said, visibly irritated. "I understand you wanted to help, but we need commitment here." I tried to explain the situation, but Natalia was adamant. She penalized me with a pay cut for that day. I left the workshop with a heavy heart, feeling that even though I had done the right thing, I was being punished. That night, while trying to relax and forget the difficult day, I heard a knock on the door. I opened it and saw an older man, elegantly dressed, with a worried look on his face. "Are you Alina?" he asked. "I am Anton's father, the man you saved. I came to thank you personally." He handed me an envelope with money, insisting I accept it as a sign of gratitude. Reluctantly, I accepted but asked about Anton's condition. Then he told me something frightening. Anton had been kidnapped and was being kept sedated against his will. I was shocked. How could someone do that, and why? Anton's father thanked me again and left, leaving me with a whirlwind of thoughts. I knew I couldn't just forget what had happened. Anton needed help, and I was determined to find out more about this story. After learning about Anton's terrible situation, I was disturbed. I couldn't stop thinking about him, alone and sedated in the hospital. The next day, I went to visit him. When I arrived, I met a nurse named Vera, who seemed like a good and trustworthy person. "Hi, I'm Alina," I said, trying to stay calm. "I'm here to see Anton. He was brought in yesterday." Vera looked at me with concern and led me to Anton's room. He was lying in bed, still unconscious. "He's sedated," Vera explained. "But there's something strange about all this. The dosage is too high for a simple injury." I felt a chill down my spine. His father told me Anton was kidnapped. I confessed to her. "Someone is keeping him like this on purpose." Vera was shocked, but after a moment of silence, she nodded. "We need to get him out of here," she said decisively. "But we need to be careful." We spent the rest of the day planning the rescue. I was nervous, but I knew it needed to be done. That night, we returned to the hospital. Vera managed to turn off the monitors and get Anton out of bed without attracting attention. Carefully, we took him to my car and placed him in the back seat. We drove in silence, our nerves on edge. Finally, we arrived at my house, where I had prepared a room for Anton. He was still unconscious, but Vera promised the sedation would wear off soon. I thanked her from the bottom of my heart, knowing that without her help, this wouldn't have been possible. The next day, Anton began to wake up. He was confused and weak, but he could talk. "Where am I?" he asked in a hoarse voice. "You're safe," I told him. "I'm Alina. I found you by the side of the road and later discovered what was happening. You were kidnapped." Anton's eyes filled with tears. "It was Ivan," he whispered. "My guardian. He wants my inheritance." I couldn't believe Ivan's wickedness. How could someone do that? "Don't worry," I told Anton, holding his hand. "We'll sort this out. You are not alone anymore." Anton seemed relieved, but I knew the fight was just beginning. With Vera's help and the support of Anton's father, we began gathering evidence against Ivan. It was dangerous, but I was determined to bring justice. Every day, Anton recovered a little more. Slowly, we grew closer, sharing our stories and fears. I had never met anyone like him, and despite everything, I felt that something good could come from this terrible situation. Rescuing Anton was just the beginning. Now we needed to face the real threat, Ivan. We couldn't let him get away with what he had done. With Anton slowly recovering, I knew every day was precious to gather evidence against his guardian. Vera, the nurse who helped us get Anton out of the hospital, continued to be a valuable ally. She started looking for documents and medical records that proved what Ivan had done. Meanwhile, Anton's father used his influence to open an official investigation. Meanwhile, Anton stayed at my house, recovering little by little. We talked a lot, and I discovered how brave and determined he was. Even weakened, he was willing to fight for justice. This inspired me to keep going even when everything seemed difficult. One day, Vera brought important news. "I found the medical records," she said with a triumphant gleam in her eyes. "They clearly show that Anton was being sedated deliberately and unnecessarily." This evidence was crucial. We decided to take these documents to the authorities. Anton was nervous, but also relieved to finally have something concrete against Ivan. We went to the police station together, where we handed everything over to the investigator in charge of the case. The following days were full of anxiety. The investigation was underway, but we didn't know the outcome yet. Anton and I spent a lot of time together, supporting each other. We began to share more about our lives, our hopes, and our fears. The connection between us grew stronger each day. Finally, the news we had been waiting for arrived. The police had enough evidence to arrest Ivan. He was detained and charged with kidnapping and attempted fraud. Anton and I were called to testify in court. It was a tense moment, but we were ready. On the day of the trial, I saw Ivan for the first time. He was a cold and calculating man, but I didn't let myself be intimidated. I told my part of the story clearly, as did Vera and Anton's father. When it was Anton's turn, he spoke with a strength I had never seen before. He told everything he had suffered at Ivan's hands and made it clear he wouldn't let him ruin his life. The judge listened attentively, and after everyone's testimony, he declared Ivan guilty. It was a moment of relief and joy. Justice was done. Anton was free, and Ivan would pay for his crimes. We returned home, exhausted but happy. We sat on the couch, and Anton looked into my eyes. "We can finally move forward," he said, smiling. "Yes," I replied, feeling a wave of happiness. "Now we can focus on our future." And so, we began planning the next phase of our life together. With Ivan out of the way, we could build the family we always dreamed of. The twins were about to arrive, and I knew Anton would be an amazing father. Additionally, the women's workshop was becoming a reality. Each day was a new step towards our dream, and with each challenge we overcame, we felt we were getting closer to complete happiness. Together, Anton and I were an unbeatable team, and we knew that with love and determination, we could face any obstacle life threw at us. After all the storms we faced, the calm finally arrived. Anton and I were closer than ever. With Ivan out of our lives, we could focus on building our future together. Our days were filled with joy and plans for the future. Anton was always by my side, helping with the preparations for the twins' arrival. Every ultrasound, every kick I felt in my belly, was a special moment we shared with great love. One day, we were walking in the park, holding hands, when Anton suddenly stopped. He turned to me with a serious but loving look. "Alina," he began, "these last months have been a roller coaster. But one thing has become clear to me. I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you and our children." My heart skipped a beat. Before I could respond, he knelt down and took a small box from his pocket. "Will you marry me?" he asked with a shy smile. Tears of joy filled my eyes. Yes, Anton, of course, yes, I replied, hugging him tightly. He slid the ring onto my finger, and we kissed under the blue sky, feeling that all our effort and struggle had been worth it. With the wedding planned, we started to plan our new life. Anton took on the role of father to my twins with so much love and dedication that my heart filled with gratitude every day. He was always present, taking care of me, going to appointments, and helping set up the baby's room. Additionally, our idea of opening a franchise of mechanical workshops for women began to take shape. With Anton's help and Natalia's support, we gathered the necessary resources. We decided to start with a pilot workshop in Milan, offering not only mechanical services, but also basic courses so that women could learn to take care of their own cars. The opening was a success. Seeing the smiles and confidence of the women who came to us was rewarding. It was more than a business. It was a community of support and empowerment. I had never felt so fulfilled. But not everything was easy. We faced daily challenges, from the logistics of the new business to the final preparations for the baby's arrival. Amid all this, there was still the shadow of the past, especially with the possibility of encountering Victor at some point. However, each challenge made us stronger. Anton and I supported each other, knowing that together we could face anything. Our home was filled with love, and the anticipation of the twins' arrival kept us excited and hopeful. Then, on a cold winter day, my babies were born. Anton was by my side, holding my hand and smiling with tears in his eyes. When I heard the first cry, my heart almost burst with happiness. They were perfect. We returned home with our little miracles, ready to start our new life as a family. Each day was an adventure, but with Anton by my side, I knew we could face anything. Our journey was just beginning, and I couldn't be happier. The arrival of the twins transformed our lives in ways I could never have imagined. Each day was a mix of joy and challenges. Anton and I were learning to be parents, discovering together the joys and difficulties of raising two babies. Our days began early and ended late, but every smile from our children made it all worth it. Anton proved to be an incredible father, always willing to help, learn, and take care of us. His support was crucial, and our connection grew even stronger. The women's workshop was also thriving. We received many clients, and the courses we offered were a success. Seeing the confidence grow in the eyes of the women we served was gratifying. They learned to take care of their own cars and feel safe on the road, something that had always been a dream for me. Despite all the happiness, we knew there were still issues from the past that needed to be resolved. One day, while we were at the workshop, I heard a familiar voice. I turned around and saw Victor. He looked older, tired, and for the first time, I saw regret in his eyes. "Alina," he began, "I heard about the twins. I need to talk to you." Anton, who was beside me, took my hand. "I'm here," he said, giving me strength. I took a deep breath and looked at Victor. "Victor, a lot has changed," I began. "You left us when we needed you the most. Anton is here. He is the father of my children, and we won't let you hurt us again." Victor lowered his head. "I know I was wrong. I just wanted to ask for forgiveness and, if possible, be part of their lives in some way. It was a difficult decision. I knew Victor had the right to see his children, but I also knew I needed to protect our new family. We can talk about it," I finally replied, "but things will be on our terms." With time, we found a way to include Victor in the twins' lives in a safe and controlled manner. It wasn't easy, but it was the best for our children. They deserved to know the truth, but they also needed the stability and love that Anton and I were determined to provide. Challenges continued to arise, but we were ready to face them together. Our workshop was growing, our children were growing up healthy and happy, and our love was getting stronger every day. I learned that life is full of ups and downs, but with courage, determination, and love, it is possible to overcome any obstacle. Every day with Anton and our children was a blessing. Together, we faced the past, built the present, and looked to the future with hope. We knew that no matter what came our way, we would be ready to face it all together as a family.